English webinar today, teachers. Today's webinar is about Full Blast. So let's start with an overall understanding about BELT English. BELT stands for the Best English Language Teaching. We proudly say we're the world's best English program because we supply to over 140 countries, thousands, tens of thousands, institutions, academies, and schools, right? A basis of our BELT English program is the publication. And so we are, in fact, the Korea office for publications and European ELT publisher. And to meet the needs of Korean market, we have put together a content of MNs, and that we call it BELT English. So within the BELT English system, there are two tracks, so to speak. First is the primary, which consists of the online learning platform, course book, grammar book, graded readers, and exam prep. The Cambridge International Language Test Prep. Secondary is similar, but except we have, instead of having one track for online learning platform, we now have two tracks or two programs, platform which you use. The course book called Full Blast, two track for grammar, again, Full Blast Grammar or Live English Grammar, which is great for like grammar intensive during summer and winter. Then we have two graded reading system, and again the exam prep books. And so let's talk a little bit about the foundation of MM and BELT English. The very first thing is to understand the difference between our learners, the environment of our learners, so to speak. And so English as a second language versus English as a foreign language. Our target market is the EFL learners, English as a foreign language, meaning those learners, students who are learning English while speaking their own mother tongue. I think you can, right away, I think you can relate to that. You understand that. You can imagine your Korean students, right? As soon as they step out, or actually not even step out, as soon as they're at the door, your students aren't speaking in English, they're speaking in Korean, they're thinking in Korean, right? And so that's the EFL, those who we are teaching. But ESL, English as a second language, would be like the Philippines, where they have English language much more prevalent, where they're used in their daily life. And so another will be America, the actually English-speaking countries, where immigrants like Korean or Japanese people moving to the States and adopting a second language because their environment, they're surrounded by that language. And so it's part of adopting it. And so more and more research are saying that though we have many countries, academies, they use materials from ESL countries, more and more research are saying that in EFL, we must approach it a little differently, must teach it differently, because that precise fact that they're learning, they're surrounded by, or whether they're not surrounded by, that English-speaking language. So coming back, it's a matter of us not having that English, or our learners not having that daily English-speaking interaction. And so with that comes the CEFR standard. It is created by the European Union, the Council of European Union. Excuse me, right. And so it stands for a common European framework of reference, which measures one's ability to communicate in a certain language, in our case, in English. And it divides the levels of learners into 6 levels, as you can see here, A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, and C2. Although it's in Korean, you can easily find Google CEFR and you're able to find much information here. The main thing you need to understand is that CEFR measures one's level, one's proficiency in communication. So then, my next question to you is, what is the difference between talking and communicating? Right? Oftentimes we teach our student, we want our student to talk, just wish that they can talk or speak in English. So then what is the difference? Why is the CFR emphasized one's proficiency in communicating in English versus our student talking in English? Well, the main difference is that talking, you speak words, sounds coming out of one's mouth, what I'm doing right now. But communicating takes interaction. This is why I love face-to-face training, where I'm able to see your face, your reaction, your question, lets me know how much of what I said you have understood and how I need to rephrase it, restate it, so that you actually understand what I want or what I'm saying, right? Whereas talking right now, I don't know, I don't have any reactions from you, so I don't know how much of this has gotten to your head, right? And so that will be the main difference here, that interaction. And so then how should we teach? Oh, excuse me. So then how does this matter? It's a European standard. It does matter quite significantly because these companies, very big global companies here, even in Korea, they also accept the CFR standard language test called B2 FCE. In fact, more and more universities and companies and schools around the world are turning towards the CFR language exam because it lets the employee, the student, the candidate know exactly how well they're able to communicate their ideas across to another person, right? And so then, with this idea for communication, we wanting our students to be able to communicate in English, then what is your role as a teacher? So we believe that you shouldn't, traditionally, teachers lectured in front of the class, right? You're giving information. It was students' responsibility to take that information, internalize and make it theirs. But nowadays, our students aren't able to do that because there's so many things happening around them. And so what we need to do in order for them to develop this communication skills, we need teachers to be not a lecturer, but to be a facilitator, giving them opportunities, creating an environment where they can practice, right? So you must facilitate it. And so what that means, in other words, class should be learner-centered, not you lecturing, your teacher-centered, where you're delivering the message and have them filter, but you are facilitator. You're matching the level of your students and you're incorporating activities that they will find most comfortable, they will find fun, right? It's learner-centered. So let me restate this lecturer versus facilitator in this image where you're giving information. When you're facilitating, you're organizing and giving student opportunity to speak, communicate within themselves in the classroom. Then another foundation of MM and Belt English is this idea of blended learning. Blended learning is all about giving students opportunity to practice what they have learned in the classroom as well as off the classroom, meaning online, offline learning. The whole idea of online learning is that you're giving student opportunity to practice at their own pace. In the classroom, you don't have time to individualize your lesson to each student because you have many students in the classroom. So you sort of have to move through a certain pace. But online learning, it gives student opportunity to practice or go forward, move at their own pace. And so that is the benefit of it. And so what we, many academies, many franchise does it, but how we are different in this is that we incorporate the things that they have learned in the classroom with course book. So we don't focus on the same vocabulary or topic. We focus on the grammar. So here, our students are learning the relative pronouns in level 1.2. Our students are learning the same relative pronouns in A2 and module 4 in A2. And so what it is, it gets repeated within the course book. Then when you get to the grammar books, the same relative pronouns are shown at different phase with different character and different situation, right? And so what this does for the students, that they get the repetition, but they don't realize it's the repetition. It's the new lesson for them, but each time they come across it, they have a deeper understanding. Then they come to our online learning platform where they're learning the same target language, we call it, or grammar. But again, entirely new, different exercise and situation. And so they get more exposure, more practice, and this helps create long-term memory for the students. Now, how is it different for what your all of your academies, you're using our program, but compared to other program, English system, is that they would learn about relative pronouns all within that week of 100 pages of worksheet, one after another, and you're having to correct after another. But here, the repetition, instead of you giving the worksheet, these repetition happens within the Belt English system. The course book, the grammar book, the online, the course book, grammar online, they're constantly reviewed at different situation, but with the same target language, right? So we give them indirect situation, real life situations. And so the same appears even, the same target language appears even within the reading. This is what we mean by graded reading, because we have many selection of the books that uses the same target language they have learned at that level. And we have the proper exam prep books, right, to help repeat and expand and extend what they have learned. Now, another foundation of MM is this idea of spiral syllabus. As you can see these arrows, if you're able to draw closer in, these arrows represent certain target language repeating again at different level. Spiral syllabus is all about not teaching everything at once. Again, going back to the relative pronouns. Right now in level 1. In the example I've shown you, in level 1.2, A1.2, our students learn the relative pronouns with just 3 words: who, where, and when, I think. And then later on in A2, we add 2 more words, what, and I forgot the others. And so instead of teaching all at once, what we do is we give them the most basic, most commonly used concept of relative pronouns. We expand, we extend, and repeat it again. This, instead of giving too much information once, you give little at a time. This is because we're working with an EFL learners where they don't have that exposure already. You're exposing them in class. You want to give a little bit at a time so that they can actually digest. If you give them 10 in one class, they can only digest none because they can't digest all because there's too much information. But if you give them 3 at a time, that's enough. At least they would get 2, at most all 3. So then what would you rather have? Give 10 and get none, or give 3 and get 2 out of it? That is the idea of spiral syllabus, right? We're not choking it down their throat. So how many times is enough? Memorizing the grammar rule isn't the answer. Practice is the key. You're giving them practice to repeat, and that makes it perfect. So it's a complete Belt English. It's a complete system. We have the course book, we have the grammar book that supports the course book, and then we got online that reinforces and supports the course book and grammar book. And so this 3 independent syllabus of course book, grammar book, online, they come together to maximize the practice and usage. And that, teachers and directors, it creates a long-term memory for our students. And the result, I think we can agree, is their ability to communicate, meaning their ability to say their thoughts, ideas correctly, accurately, and completely, right? Not a memorized paragraph, but of their real words and sentences. And so this is why Belt English is the answer to 수행평가 and 내신, the midterm assessment and the national SAT, because within the Belt English system, they get to practice various types of questions from these midterm assessment and SAT, both online and offline, right? So it's not just memorizing, but meaningful drill practice we do here. So this is an example from the national SAT, finding the awkward sentence. Having our student read it, they can identify which is awkward right away. And these are, I specifically pulled out ones with relative pronouns. And so here in this question, they're to find one with the correct sentence, which would be very easy. Fill in the blank. As you can see, these are all relative pronouns. And finding the wrong grammar, wrong words, right? So again, they simply have to read it and they can identify what is wrong. And here, what is the correct sentence? Correctly used relative pronouns. And last one, most famous for being most challenging question type is to read, fill in the blank, or read their own personal response. Now, if you're teaching your student to communicate in class, using their own thoughts and ideas, and having them communicate in correct, accurate sentences, when they come to test questions like this, they will be able to do it, right? You don't have to practice for topic. Can you prepare your students for thousands of possible topics that they could come across? Can you instill, have them memorize all of that? That is impossible. But if you build that basic foundation of speaking correctly, accurately, understanding the difference between relative pronouns, excuse me, in this case, relative pronouns, and know it well, this kind of test will become very easy. It's a matter of building test skills, not language skills, right? And so, all right, that is a big basic foundation of MM and Belt English program. So let's look into, delve into a little bit about Full Blast and Full Blast Plus. We have recently turned over, we're no longer using Full Blast, but we're using the more updated version called Full Blast Plus. And I'm going to tell you a bit of difference between those two books. The first is the curriculum. We have simplified the curriculum. And, excuse me, originally you had, let's go back, my apologies. Originally, you are to present or preview the online learning platform during your class time. And you are going to spend some wrap-up time, Monday and Wednesday. And you had 8 modules and 5 lessons per module, and culture page sung after even number modules with vocabulary list, portfolio project in the teacher's resource material that gave extra activity worksheets. But within as we adopt the Full Blast Plus, we have simplified the curriculum where we don't need to, we have taken out that preview online learning platform preview time. And so we kind of left that up to your academies to decide and when and how to do it. And we have additional consolidation lessons called Switch on Videos and Worksheets, as well as this section called Exam Prep. And so just adding that section to the curriculum, it was already full. And also with the switch of new online platform, you don't really need it to do the presentation time. And so we have simplified the curriculum. Next is the multimedia tools you use. Per the Full Blast, you've used this C+ based language, IWV, and you have to double click the icon called Load. And this is the page you'll see. And you have to click into the module and it'll show you the cover page and the lessons. But with the new Full Blast Plus, you have to double click on the icon called Main Menu. And you must open it with Chrome, Microsoft Edge, or Naver Whale, right? It's same as TopStars now. And the layout, as you can see in the main menu, it's different from the previous. Now, the teacher's resource material, TRCD, the contents within it has also changed. As you can see in the left, you had the grammar test, audio, word list, and the portfolio, like extra worksheet. But with the Full Blast Plus, you have a new folder called Switch On. It's really American, and so it's that consolidation video with the portfolio and word list. So you have that additional file folder for it. The cover has changed as well. All right. Now let's take a look more into the Full Blast at an overall. It's what's same is that we have the same leveling system. Beginners A1.1, elementary A1.2, pre-inter A2, B1, B1 plus B2. So still, we target the goal for our Full Blast users is B2, whereas the primary program is A2. Where's my mouse? And our recommended minimum time period is 8 months to each level. And as you can see, this overall curriculum, it still takes 8 months. We have the graded readers. It tells you which course book, which grammar book, which online learning you're going to use together with the Full Blast. Now, components for students is the same, student book, workbook, and again, the listening, additional reading, online, listening to it, watching video for it. Those are all available online at mmpublications.com. Components for teachers are same as well. The Interleave Teachers Book, the Workbook Teachers Edition. I realize many people do not realize about this Workbook Teachers Edition. It's the student workbook with answer keys. Full Blasts are usually used with teenagers, 5th, 6th graders and above, and they have this attitude, right? If you don't know the answer, they'll give you a dirty look. And so we highly recommend you to have at least one copy. So when you're going over the workbook, although the answers are appear in the IWB, having that book does help quite a bit, I think. Okay, so then in the teacher's resource CD-ROM, we have given it to you digitally. And so teacher's resource material, you got the test, you got the portfolio, grammar test, and keys to grammar book activities. So if you don't have the updated TRCD, please call our office after the webinar. We'll be happy to send it to you. And then finally, and the most importantly, the IWB, our interactive whiteboard material. Now, I wanted to delve into the materials for each level. Not each level. As we go higher into the level, we have different lessons and different materials available to you. And so I wanted to cover that. So as you can see here, the first 3 levels, A1.1, 1.2, A2, it has 8 modules. Each module consists of 5 lessons called A, B, C, D. And at the end of even number modules, you have what's called the roundup. At the end of each module, you have roundup. At the end of even number module, you have what's called the culture page, song, or kuru. And that was something that's new is the switch on video that's available at the end of every module. And when you finish the module, you're going to do a module test. There's a midterm test as well as the final test. And at the end of each module, you have also what's called the grammar test if you're doing the Full Blast grammar. And there's a final test for grammar books. And then you have the word list and irregular verbs. And so what you see in the IWB right here, gosh, where's my mouse? Right here, these are the major lessons which appears in the student book. And these are additional consolidation lesson you need to do, which you may need to print off separately from the teacher's resource material. And so keep that in mind, that instead of just finishing the pages, you have additional lessons and materials to work with that we need you to cover. Now moving on to next level, it's B1. B1, it's same there in that it has a cover page and 8 modules. But as you can see here, instead of having 5 lessons, there are 2 lessons, lesson A and B. But the number of pages hasn't changed, right? Although it's only 2 lessons. As you can see, a number of pages, in fact, has increased. And so within each lessons, we're covering a lot more in-depth practice of reading comprehension, going more in depth with grammar, expanding on the vocabulary, and then practice with speaking and writing activity. And so it's a lot more intensive than the first 3 levels. And at the end of each module, you're going to do the roundup, switch on video, and we're going to have what's called the exam practice. So before the module test, of course, you're going to do exam practice. And at the end of odd number modules, 1, 3, 5, 7, you have what's called the cultural page. And after even number modules, 2, 4, 6, 8, you have song. The first 3 levels, you had the songs and culture page at the even number, 2, 4, 6, 8. But now it's alternated within each modules. At the end of each module, then you're going to take the module test, midterm test, final test, a grammar test, and final test, and you have additional that word list and irregular verb. And so besides doing the pages which appear here in the IWB, you need to find and do these switch on video, exam practice, culture page, song, module test, and grammar test. So they still take about 8 months, at least 8 months to finish B1 level or longer. Now let's look into our most highest level in full blast, B1 plus and B2. Instead of, I think you can see right away, instead of having 8 modules, we're having 12 modules and 5 lessons to each modules. And it's not break into A, B, C, D. We have kind of given you a guideline on how much to cover each lesson or class. And so if you have longer class, I assume you can do it more lessons. But again, it's not a matter of how much you give them. You're matching their speed, how much they're able to internalize and make it theirs. So please keep that in mind as you modify our curriculum. At the end of each module, you have roundup and exam practice. You also have what's called review and exam prep after 2, 4, 6, 8, the even numbers. And at the end of every 3 modules, you have what's called video and worksheet, master's video. And so it's different from the switch on video where you have one for every modules. You have that till B1, but when you get to B1 plus and B2, you have that video consolidation video lesson at the end of 3, 6, 9, 12 modules. And at the end of each module, you have the module test, midterm test, final test, word list, irregular verbs. And so I hope I was able to identify that as we go higher into the level, it's a lot more intensive, a lot more reading, a lot more vocabulary is happening. But the reason why that doesn't happen in A level is because the focus and purpose of A level is to build that basic foundation. That is the focus here. Once they have it, then you can expand and go intensive. Yeah. Okay, so then let's go to next. I think I've identified the components of the student book, students and teachers components. And so I will go on to next part. We recommend you to do the weekly test with a word list, the dictation from online. We have the monthly test from the grammar books, a midterm and final test with the course book. Monthly test with course book and grammar book, as well as our online learning platform. The midterm test with the course book, grammar book, final test with course book and grammar book. At the end of certain level, like A2, B1, B2, we encourage you to take the international language test called Cambridge exam. And we have that exam prep books. And so, all right, now, a lot of information, right? I hope you're following along. Now, as you're teaching the full blast, I want to recap on what you're going to need to teach the full blast. And so first thing you're going to need is teacher's book. Second is the IWB, the multimedia tool. Third is the teacher's resource material, which we have given it to you in the USB. In the USB, you'll find the grammar test, module test, word list, the video worksheets and teaching guide for it, as well as that portfolio, which we give you extra activity worksheet. So I hope you have that down. The idea of modular approach is that we give in-depth analysis of topic and practice that for a longer period of time, which encourage long-term memory. But I think this will make better sense when we actually take a look at the module, the IWB, and I'll demo a lesson with you, to you. So let's try that. I'm going to, oops. All right. Let me, so, oops. In the PPT file, it goes on further and explain the different pages within the course book, different lessons, and explains the target and the various activities and features within it. And so I highly encourage you to take a look at, spend time and take a look at the rest of the PPT file later on. Now, here are the IWBs. It should be saved to your C drive, D drive, or put it in a USB external files thing like I do. I'm going to demonstrate this lesson today with A 1.2. So mine is set to start with Google Chrome, but if you're seeing perhaps like Internet Explorer, what you can do is you take your mouse, right click it, it'll bring up that menu and then say open with Chrome or whichever. Just don't open with Internet Explorer, okay? See that the page loads, you want to press F11 to maximize to full screen. Then let me do the sound. All right, so everything in the student book pages are here. Everything in the workbook pages are here. The vocabulary list can be accessed at any time. It filters alphabetically or by modules and by lessons. So take a look at that. You can do that before class. We have 1 or 2 games per module. There's instructions for it. It's a simple, fun one. You can start anytime and it changes every time. So you can repeat it as many times as you like. And so you should use this to encourage, promote certain positive behaviors or use it as a reward. Let's do, if you all get 90% and above, we're gonna play a game for 5 minutes. You know, that's a great way to motivate students. Now you can access the video and worksheets from here directly, or you can do it from the student pages. And so here's the worksheet, which you need to print off separately from teacher's resource material, or you can go to the video right away. Yep. But so let's go into it and let's look at more different functions within the full blast. And so these are the pages. You can click for cover page. And the arrow down here shows the, it flips you through the next pages. And you click to expand here. Before it would have been arrow, but here now we use the scrolls up and down. Anytime you see this all-seeing eye, it's the answer key. Right, this button right here takes you, zooms out. You click in to expand, you click for the answer, you can click individually, or you can see it all together at once, yeah? So, and this button is the audio.
Ouch, and check your Tina.
Okay, so, and At any time, you can access the vocabulary list. And as you can see, it automatically filters down to that lesson. Now, the lesson we have just seen, the vocabulary words are about 6 to 8. But as you can see here, within this lesson, these are all the words that we want our student to understand and know how to use or be exposed to. And so please, this list is shown in the teacher's book. So please study your teacher's book before you teach. All right, and then arrow again. When you're in that expanded page, it takes you to Let's activity, this arrow. And so scroll down to see the answer. I think you're familiar with this. Question mark will highlight the answer where they can find the answer. Paperclip is attachment. So instead of going back to the reading passage, you click and it'll bring up that so you don't have to move back and forth. That can be distracting, right? And so you simply, if student answers it wrong, simply click on the question mark and have them find the answers instead of you spoon feeding the answer. All right. Now this is a grammar part, which student will see from their book. If you click on that paperclip attachment file, it gives additional information or explanation on the grammar. Now, this is what you're going to use when you teach the Full Blast grammar, and which I've talked about last week. If you have any questions about that, please contact me. Then you have the grammar exercise and speaking, writing exercise, instructions here. Write a short paragraph about the accident, right? And then you get to next lesson and so on and so forth. In that cases like this situation right here, right? Excuse me. We have certain lessons, certain situation where you have this video button activated. So then simply click and you get to watch the video, right? Instead of just doing the reading. Now, you no longer need to find YouTube video for this. It's all available. I forgot to mention this button right here. It's the subtitle. So you can watch with or without the subtitle, depending on how you want to improvise the class. Okay. And so at the end of lesson D, lesson 5 focuses more on writing. So before we had a lot of situation, reading, grammar, like this, grammar practice, listening practice, and then checking comprehension, then going to speaking. But in lesson E, the 5th lesson, we focus on speaking and go right into the writing practice of the first 4 lessons, which you have learned, and they kind of come together, then do expansion, writing and reading, speaking activity. Then at the end of the module, you have this round of video. And in this left side, you can see this thing called video and worksheet. So it'll take you to that video worksheet, which you have seen on the main page. All right. You can get to workbook from the workbook pages or click here and get to workbook like this at any time. Workbook, you can also turn this into a speaking activity time and give student practice instead of just giving them time to do the work and just check it. You can always expand it. There's many great ways to do it. So you can switch to student book workbook and when you expand, zoom out, right? Okay, so now let me actually demonstrate module 4. Excuse me, one more thing. This is module 3, but when you get to module 4, the even number modules, you have that additional lessons right here. The consolidation lesson, I don't know if you can see, right? Excuse me, 3 lessons. And so please keep that in mind. It appears at the end of even number modules. Now, without further ado, let me demonstrate A1.2, module 4. Within the teacher's book, it tells you that it states the item, aim. Main aim for the cover page is to introduce the topic of the module and activate students' background knowledge and present a learning objective. And so how do we create interest and activate or check their background information is through this images and discussion questions. And so this is how I would have done. Okay, friends, we're learning a new module. It's called what? Places, right? Look at this picture. What do you see? Oh, they see a pole with arrows, names of different countries. Good. Have you been to any of these countries? Okay, you don't have to answer, so you throw the questions here. Oh, what? So let's first take a look at these countries. Let's read it out. United States, the US, Nigeria, Sweden, Kenya, Poland, Japan. Oh, what's out there? Brazil, Italy, Norway, Spain. Okay. Now, have you been to any of these countries? Oh, okay. Where is this? Where do you think this is? This pole? What kind of country? What kind of environment, climate? Okay. Do you think they're pointing in the right direction? And so then you might need to pull out a globe and see the different direction from certain place. So then you go into this discussion questions below. Do you live in a small town or a big city? What's it like where you live? Would you like to change anything about where you live? And so with these questions, which you have given you here, as well as the questions I've asked previously were in the teacher's book. And so with them, you're introducing the topic of the module as well as check their background information. And then you're going to look through the books, have students find these images. And these are page numbers where they can find it. The idea is to have them look ahead. Then you let them know what's the goal for this lesson or module. It is to make an offer, ask for permission, and make polite requests, express possibility, ask for, and give suggestions. Then you go into the next part. And so, all right, so friends, next lesson. This lesson is called what? Around Town. Okay, so let's look at this vocabulary section. All right, let's read the words. Hair salon, and so on and so forth. Let's look at the picture. Okay, so what's the first picture? Big circle right here. What's that? Library, I think. So what's this? Flower stand, farmer's market, hair salon, newsstand, right? You go over the words like this. All right, so then what do you do? Where can you find with the right place? Where can you find this? Excuse me. Read it and name the correct place where you can do this. And so you can have students read and answer it themselves. Right? At this stage, please don't have your student open the books. Have the books be closed and talk it out together. All right, then. So friends, let's listen to the dialogue. Okay. As we listen, let's choose where this place is, where they're at. Okay, these two friends, two people, a girl and a man, they're talking to each other. And so let's see. So you can have them listen first, or if listening is their strength and reading is their weakness, which is highly unlikely, you can also do the reading first, have them identify it, and then listen, play the audio here.
2.
Of course.
Where would you?
So you can do this, and then you move on to next part. This is checking their comprehension, writing T or false. These questions, summary should have been done as you're doing that activity, situation activity. Then you have student answer. If student says true, you should probably encourage students to say where, how did you know? And so have them give proof to their answer. And then you show the question mark where the answers is and clarify why they were wrong or why they were correct. Then you move on to next activity, which is the grammar. And the grammar part, oh, I didn't go over this, but within the teacher's book, you have comprehension questions. There, with this specific lesson, there's about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 comprehension questions we have given it to you for this part that we would like for you to ask before you move on, right? So please do look at the teacher's book. After reading, after doing the comprehension, there's some post-reading activity, which is the real life situation one. So where do you usually buy? What do you usually buy at newsstand? What about your parents and other members of family? Do you know newsstand? Do you see newsstands anymore? Probably not in Korea, right? Where do you buy newspaper then? 편의점. No, I see it on the plane. Okay, is there a library? Is there a library in your neighborhood? If yes, do you check out books from it? What kind of books? And so now we're extending from the reading to the real life. And then you go to the next part, which is the grammar. And we give you detailed step-by-step instructions on how to teach the grammar. And the grammar here is can, could, may, might, which it's to give student opportunity. The target language, excuse me, is to talk about places in town, making, accepting, and refusing offers, asking for and giving, and refusing permission. That's all happening here in this lesson, right, with this grammar. Okay, so instruction is to have draw students' attention to the first 2 rules right here. Have student read it, and then have student come up with their own example of situation which one might offer to do something or ask for permissions. So ask your friend, Tony, ask permission from Jane about pencil, about using her pencil. Can I use your pencil? Good. So you may need to give them more specific situation or keywords, right? And have them create the sentence on their own, or just making a sentence out of air. And then you do another one with asking offer to do something. So we want our student to understand, although it's the same, but different when making an offer, different feel to it, right? And so that's what you're going to do with the grammar. And if you need extra example, explanation, we have here in the paper clip, which please go over. And then we have the grammar checking activity. But this is more of a communication activity, right? It's hot in here. Out of A, B, C, D, F, what would be the correct response? It's hot in here. Could you open the window, please, right? You look tired.
Can I help you with the house?
Yes. Thank you. And so on and so forth. And then again, if your student needs that additional help in finding their answer, you have this paper clip to do. Teachers, please don't tell them the answer right away. Show this paper clip, utilize this multimedia tools, and help teach them how to find answer instead of giving them answer. Spoon feeding your students does not help them with their long term. In fact, if you tell them the answers right away, their mindset, the message you're sending to your kids is that they don't have to think. If they keep silent long enough, you will answer it for them. You will give them the answer. They know that, so they will abuse that. So please use this multimedia tools to show them how to find answers, right? Okay, here is the pronunciation activity, which you'll see online in the online learning platform as well as here. It's the difference between the C sounds, right? Coffee century. And then you get practice here and have student understand which one it comes closer to. Then that's an easy breezy. we're always working with them. You're making it intense, you're making it easy. There's that fluctuation of learning cycle within each lesson. Okay, then here we're giving the little cues and having students form the sentence, the question part of asking and offering. Okay, and you have students then respond. And so what you're going to do is do it together, and you're going to break it into smaller groups and have them do. You have switch partners, do it one more time, and you may give them some keywords to do so. And that's it. Then you go to next lesson. Here, our students are learning preposition of places, movement, 2 prepositions. Here we give them again the vocabulary part, then we give them a situation. It's about these 2 friends talking about games, computer games. Let's watch and talk about it more.
Hi, Stu. My brother has that game. What level are you on?
7.
That's really difficult. Need some help?
Sure. How do I get to the bank?
Okay. Get into the police car, go straight and turn right at the traffic lights.
Oh, there's the bank, on the left.
And the bank robbers are outside the bank. They're getting into the car. Catch them.
Here we go. They're going very fast. Oh no! Where did they go? I lost them.
Quick! Go past the bus stop and turn left.
Okay, so while watching, you can pause and say, friends, where's the bank? They were watching it so intently that they probably weren't listening to what was the content of it. And so then you go back and watch one more time till they can find the answer, right? And then you can ask who has the same game as the one Stu is playing, Bill's brother. What level is Stu on? 7. What car is Stu driving? A police car. What does he have to do in order to win? To catch the bank robbers. So these questions and answers are all given in the teacher's book. So it's like a Bible. All answers are there. So please study it, become familiar with it, make it yours. All right. After doing this, you can ask, like there's a language plus, need some help? Do you need some help? Like those are little phrase, daily usage language, which you can expose to them. After doing this, checking their comprehension, doing the comprehension question part. All right. All right. Before you go to grammar, you have the post-reading activity. Do you play computer games? What kind of computer games do you play? Do you like playing? Are you good at giving and understanding directions? So then you have these real-life, realistic questions. But please, teachers, those type of questions should happen after doing this comprehension part, not during or at the beginning of watching the video, because those questions actually distract students from what they need to hear and understand. But so please, after understanding the situation, then you ask the expansion questions. Okay. So then when you go into the grammar part, it's the preposition. You have detailed instructions here about look at the ball and have student identify where the ball is. If they can correct it, if they can say it, then you tell them about it. And then we hear instructions to expand to real life. Okay, friends, this is the mouse, right? Oops. Where is the mouse? Oh, this is the mirror. Where is the mouse? On the mirror, in front of, in back of, between. Okay, all right. Whatever it takes for you to get that message across. Go over it in real life. Then you have additional reference practice. Then you have student create sentences using them. Then you go into grammar activities, then listening and speaking activities. Right. If you click again to the paperclip, it gives you that transcript for listening, which is also in the teacher's book. So my recommendation is to listen, ask some questions. Excuse me. Then if reading is something your student struggles with, by all means, improvise, have student read instead. Now, there may be some terminologies, things that they may not know, like GPS. Actually, your students probably know GPS, but they don't know what they stand for. And so, do you know what GPS stands for? Chat it for me if you do. So it's a global positioning system. I've told you I couldn't wait. And so that kind of background information is also in your teacher's book, just in case they ask, right? And so it's a very teacher-friendly teacher's book. So we encourage you to, again, study it well. After doing this listening, speaking section, right? So the instruction is to have student look at the map. Imagine you live in one of the blue houses and student B wants to come to your house but doesn't know how the way, so you have to give the student direction. And so after following the direction, and so then let's see if they're gone to the correct place. So you're going to have student A point to a certain blue house in the book, right? And the student B, they have to follow along to the instructions and hopefully end up in the same place, same blue house, right? And after that, after doing the speaking activity, excuse me, if you feel like you want to expand, I think you can definitely have student try writing it out, the instructions as well. And then you can check their listening, writing as well. So that we don't emphasize, we haven't mentioned it in the teacher's book at all. But if you feel necessary, that's where you need to practice on, by all means, feel free to adopt. Then next is city versus country. So again, this theme, the module 4, the theme of the module 4 was places, right? First lessons around town, within their immediate neighborhood, surrounding. And second lesson is about directions, how to get to places with prepositions of place and movement. Then third lesson is on city or country and using comparatives form the difference between living in the city and the country. The fourth lesson is the superlatives using outer space. So that's also place, right? Not only on Earth, but on other planets as well. And so we're going to expand to more real life, more factual topics. Then you get to lesson E, where these things come together in a brand new situation. So let's kind of take a look at this. So we give them new vocabulary words. These are signs they may see across the world and have student match. Then we're going to have student listen to different places around the world. Again, you're given the transcript right here. And so you can have student listen and put 1, 2, 3, 4. And first, the question is to have student look at it and say, what do they know about these places? So you're going to have student elicit from student what they know and then listen. That helps them be able to hear these things, facts much better. Now they're going to check which was what they hear and what was the advertisement, which place it advertised for, checking their comprehension. And I should mention, I should show you the transcript to see, right? Synthesis is the 4th largest, which was largest, is that comparative superlative, right? So lesson 4 on the West Coast. It's popular with tourists from all over the world. It's about 16 people visit every year. Probably the most famous site is the Golden Gate. How big it does, it goes one end of the bay. Can you see the prepositions? All over the city, great places that are very popular. Also, the topic of places very consistently, it's consistent. It appears all throughout the module. Do you like sports? Well, get down to AT&T Park and watch a baseball game with San Francisco Giant. Where to stop, there are many small, but some for different. Visit Chinatown with its famous street market. It's the oldest. Again, you see that superlatives, the comparatives happening. And so the target language in the first 4 lessons, they appear here together in a very different way. It's expanded. It's very different from Top Stars, where it's very closely knit, but in Full Blast, it's a bit more expanded. You see a lot of mixture of it. Then you get to, after doing this reading and listening, you're checking the comprehension. Then you get to this speaking activity. Read the description and answer the questions. It's about this person who lives in Paris and explain about their country, their city, what's famous for it. Okay. And so then the question is, well, besides comprehension questions, the instructions, think about your own town and city. Look at the questions in the speech bubble and make some notes and talk in pairs. So you're going to have student, right, talk in pairs about it. Then you're going to go give them a little cue on how to find this answer. Identify the target language, certain words and text which we want our student to do, transitioning from reading text to actually saying out loud how they differ. Then going to, all right, now let's actually do writing. The things that you spoke, we have corrected them. Now let's do writing. This is how you do introduction part. This is the information questions we'd like to answer, and main part and conclusion. And again, the questions are asked. Right, so it's a whole piece of pie we're giving it for you. It's a very structured, very systemized. This is the idea of modular approach, how they repeat and expand it all within the module with the topic, as well as we teach very specific, simple grammar language. Then you get to the roundup, then you go to the video and worksheet, you do the worksheet, but let's watch the video. The video is divided into 3 parts, 1, 2, 3. Part 1 is the vocabulary.
Multicultural.
Right, then 2 and 3, let's watch a little bit, and I want you to see what will be the objective or purpose of creating video 2, part 2 and part 3, and kind of see what is the difference between them.
Are you ready for our trip down under, Jenny?
What is down under, Daddy?
It's another name for Australia.
Oh, where is Australia?
It's far away. It's on the other side of the world. Jenny, could you help me find Jenny?
I'm up here.
What are you doing?
I'm practicing for our trip to Australia.
Australia is a country in the southern hemisphere, but it is also a continent. It is the 6th largest country in the world, but it only has a population of about 24 million. That means there are about 7 people for every square mile. Compared to the UK, where there are 650 people per square mile, Australia has a lot of empty space. Humans arrived in Australia about 50,000 years ago, and Europeans started living there at the end of the 18th century. Today, it is a multicultural country with people from all over the world living there. The 2 largest cities in
I don't think I need to explain further. I don't think we need to watch further here, but I think you can see the target language, the grammar being recycled with the entirely new situation and view. Part 2 is the conversation between 2 people. It's always a communication or conversation based. Part 3 is more of a narrative presentation style of speaking. We use the same target language in a different way. I think you have seen that within the Full Blast module that I just demonstrated, how the target language, especially when you get to the 5th lesson, how we take from the conversation to the writing. When you read it from the writing, when you take it to a conversation, how that changes. That process happening right here in A1.2 level, and then when they get to A2 again, it's another expectation. But basically the idea is we're showing the same target language, recycling it, but in a brand new situation, and showing the difference of when you're conversing and when you're presenting or narrating. So that is the idea of this switch on video, which we like to do at the end of every module up to B1 level. And that's it for this A1.2. Now I did wanted to show you one for higher level, specifically the B levels, E1 plus. When you get to the B levels, the idea is that they've finished or passed A2. That means that they have a very solid foundation of English language, the basic foundation, meaning they're able to identify, understand abstract ideas, and able to do a persuasive writing, be able to identify and state their ideas in a logical order. When you have that basic foundation, then you get to the B level, where then you can expand, go more in depth to their language skills. And so here in B level, as I mentioned to you, there are 8 modules, but they're just 2 lessons. Again, it starts with a cover page, being a team. Right away, we can see the cover page, it goes further, right away it goes into really in-depth discussion questions. What's a typical teenager in your country? Do you think it's hard being a teenager? Read the statement on the right. What do you think they're trying to say? Do you agree with them? Our room is not a mess, it's a work of art. So what is this saying? What is this kid is saying? Is that their room is a real mess and he doesn't know what to do about it, right? So teenagers don't know what age is. Adults forget what youth was. Ooh, that's deep here. So what is they trying to say? Adults are boring, right? All right, so by reading this, are they able to come up with that kind of ideas and things? Then we go to find. Now, before we have given them images to find, now we're giving them little short descriptions and they must find it. And here's the answers to it. Shall we try to go to 54? A magazine article about history of hip hop. So let's get to page 54, right here. Magazine article about history of hip hop, right? So this is how we're having them look ahead because they have that basic foundation, good, solid foundation of basic language. Then you go to the part. Teachers, as you can see, it's a lot more reading intensive because they have that basic foundation. Now, in fact, you don't even see vocabulary highlighted here. But if you look at the vocabulary list for this lesson, cover page, I think that was this page, a lot, all of this. And these lists are in that vocabulary list we have given you in the teacher's resource folder. And so, by all means, go crazy, all right? Show the text. Oh, the text down here. Woo! How do you like that? All right. Now, let's imagine you giving this lesson, doing this lesson to 6th graders who hasn't properly gone through A2. No matter how bright they are, Full Blast is just impossible to do this level with certain intellectual level students. So please keep that in mind. And it's not a matter of giving them hard materials because that's actually more discouraging. It's what's doable, right? So please find that proper leveling with our placement test. Here's the answer, where to find the answer to it, right? Again, you want to show them where it is, have them find it, correct their answers, and using the correct words, right? Giving them the cue, and then they're finishing up, changing to correct words, checking their reading, and then you're having a little discussion. So that was just the first activity or exercise, right? We call it activities here within the B1 level. Oh, it's already 11:42. Okay, so then after that's then you're going to deeper vocabulary expansion, grammar, reviewing some grammar and expanding. Here, this lesson is all both, neither, none, either. All right, how they're used with extra explanation. Double conjunctions, how double conjunctions are, you're not supposed to use it, right? No. Oh, they come together, they go hand in hand, neither nor, right? Then you have the grammar practice, you have that reference page. Then you do a listening. And within, if you look at your book, there's a comprehension questions for this listening. What module am I 4A? So you have how many questions do you have here? Oops, sorry. How many questions? Where am I? Okay. Oh, right. You have about 5 questions here. Then you're checking who has said what. Then you're still in lesson A. Then you go to lesson B with materials, grammar, further. So this grammar target language is something they have learned previously. They're reviewing it again with a lot more intensive materials. The reason why you're able to do this is because they have finished A2. They have a good foundation. I just cannot emphasize that enough. But by the time when you get to B1 level, it's real fun working with your students because they have this ability to think and be willing to share. The topic is something that they can relate to. And that is why our Full Blast has been such a favored teenager course books here in Korean market as well as throughout the world. Now in the Full Blast, the images are definitely updated from Full Blast. The Full Blast Plus images have been updated a few places here and there. And so we encourage you to not mind that. That's not very important. There's also that video worksheet, and here, as you can see, there's just 2-part, and it goes straight into narration.
Used to store
Someone explaining the history, story about the compact disc. Okay. I don't have time to go over to B1 plus B2, but if you like to see that, I think you can check it out with your IWB that you have received. If you haven't received the Full Blast Plus IWB, please call our office. But if you have classes that are currently using the regular original Full Blast, do not worry, we do have some books. You can use that to finish it up and then move on to Full Blast Plus. Okay, all right, teachers, I hope you found this helpful. Full Blast is a really great book, and I'm a big fan of it. And so now I'm going to stop the video
Recording stopped.
and open the time for